Well, that was an interesting card. UFC 307 was very notorious for all the wrong reasons, other than the main event. On paper, it was a fairly average card, and most of the fights didn't deliver. Most of the fights were actually really quite underwhelming. But what really, you know, got a lot of people talking about this card was the absolutely terrible reffing on display in Cesar Almeida versus Ihor Potieria. Just absolutely absurd. Ignores the first eye poke, which even Almeida acknowledges that it was an eye poke, right? Both fighters back away. They're like, okay, time's needed. The ref is like, no, keep going. Groin shot happens, right? He calls time for the groin shot. Okay. Then about three more eye pokes happen in succession, with none of them being given time. You can't just ignore fouls, let alone not give a warning, let alone not take a point, right? Arguably, a point should have been taken on the third eye poke. It's just, you're not refereeing, you're just the third man in the octagon, that's it. He was essentially just standing there doing bugger all, right? And while Almeida did, legitimately win the fight and he was going to win the decision regardless, Ihor was, going into the clinch line and he was trying to get his grappling going as Almeida might have been gassing out. And his main strategy to victory would have been grappling Almeida. And I kid you not, after about 10 seconds, you can sit there and you can count three occasions back to back to back. They clinch. He's fighting for underhooks. 10 seconds goes by, ref breaks it. This happens three times within the third round, and it's absurd because in the last moment, Almeida goes for a takedown. It's sloppy because he's tired, and Ihor gets on top. If he had gotten that 3 minutes earlier, who knows, maybe he could have gotten a finish. Probably not. But as a referee, you need to properly ref a fight. Well, I do think that stalling should not be encouraged, and referees should often break it up. 10 seconds is simply just absurd, right? It's ridiculous. It can't happen, and I'm really glad that, the commentary and Dana White and all the fans are, openly criticizing this and actively aiming to do something about it. I doubt that ref will ever step foot in the octagon again. And while that's unfortunate for him, I believe it was his first time refereeing in the UFC. It's just a major, major mistake on his end, and you simply can't have officials like that in the octagon when you're making that big of a mistake. But the referee wasn't the only strange thing about this card. The judges' decisions. There was there was two arguable robberies in the card. We've got Pena versus Pennington, which, right, pretty clearly, Pena won rounds 2 and round 3 with grappling and ground control, while Pennington won round 4 with rocking Pena with a head kick and dropping her with a clean right hand and nearly finishing her. And round 5, Pennington was able to land the better shots and do, really, really well. It comes down to that first round, and I do feel as if we look at damage and any shot that sort of stunned the other fighter, I think Pennington did land the better shots, and also, like, if we look at, potential 10-8s, I feel like rocking your opponent at the start of the round and dropping them really badly could quite easily constitute a 10-8. Albeit, I don't think it's the worst robbery I've ever seen, but it's one of those ones where, like, Pennington should have won. Albeit, I don't really care all that much. They're both going to lose to Kayla Harrison, who even then, we saw ain't all that. But it's just disappointing seeing bad scoring. And then we look at the Mario Batista versus Jose Aldo fight, which never happened, where Aldo clearly did more damage in rounds 2 and 3, and Batista simply held on. The referee, Dan Mogliata, breaks the action because Batista's stalling against the fence and just clinching. But then what does Mario do? He immediately shoots back in with about 3 seconds of break time. Naturally, you should break them again, and you shouldn't allow stalling, right? Because he is not working for a takedown, at this point because he knows he can't take down Aldo and he's not doing damage. That is stalling. You are not trying to advance in a fight. You are stalling. And even Dana White said this, you cannot stall. Referees should not allow stalling. And I completely agree. And even with all that, Aldo still arguably won the fight. So it's just simply ridiculous. And then we look at Alexander Hernandez versus Austin Hubbard. Hernandez did win, and I do think that is the correct decision, but it was a split decision. And one of the scorecards was 30-27 Hubbard. And I think that is ridiculous because Hernandez very, very clearly won the second, well, even the first and second round. Third round arguably can go to Hubbard, right? Even maybe the first. But to say 30-27 is just simply ridiculous. Sometimes with these judges, it seems like they pull a scorecard just out of their pocket, like a random, like a lucky dip. They just get a random scorecard and just pull it out of their ass. It's like with Taito Ivasa versus Jairzinho Rosenstrike. 30-27 Taito Ivasa. You can only argue the second round in that fight. And even then, Rosenstrike very clearly won that round. And it's just ridiculous. So I don't know what's going on in Utah, but it really did make the pay-per-view, really quite disappointing. And it highlighted some very glaring issues within the UFC's officiating. And I really do think these issues need to be addressed, but I think Dana White's, open publication of these issues is a good sign. It's a good step in the right direction, but I feel like a lot more needs to be done in terms of rules and officiating and judging and stalling. There's still a long way to go. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to discuss those talking points and just bring these issues to light a bit. So, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys later.